everyone. Welcome again to our monthly DevOps, Vancouver DevOps Meetup. Today, first of all, my name is Andrzej Kamiński, and I'm one of the co-organizers, together with Willie, with Ilse and Martin, who is actually missing today. We are actually leading this since, I think, 2017, 2018. So thank you very much for coming here today. We've got two presentations, and before we start, there are two major topics that we are going to touch today. I think the first one is really important, is a current job market. What is there, especially from DevOps perspective. A lot of organizations are adopting, at this point, DevOps. That's something that became like a major mainstream, I would say. But if you think about the job market today, and I'm pretty sure there's some people who are looking for opportunities, and there are people who are here and they've got not very good jobs, but I'm pretty sure they also want to know how to grow. And especially with the DevOps, it's a part of culture, growth mindset, right? So that's really important. So we're going to have one of those presentations that will be talking about exactly about what are the trends today and what organizations are looking for. Now, if you think about this, I just recently was looking at the job market, and Shopify, I think, let go about 3,000 people, about 20% of their staff. Recently, Bell Media, I think it was about also 10%, which is 5,000 people. So it is tough market. What does it mean to be competitive? What does it mean? What the employers are looking for? So you are always on the toes. You are always ready for change, if necessary. And the other topic that we'll be talking about today is really something that is very important, and especially for DevOps, which is generative AI. I know that everybody's talking about ChatGPT and all this stuff, but it's way more than that. Generative AI has a lot of opportunities for DevOps. And the thing is that it is not like plug in. It's not something that you can just take off the shelf somewhere and implement and say, okay, well, we've got a great tool. The point is that it requires a lot of thinking and considerations. So, but it's a lot of opportunities for DevOps, because if you think about the definition of DevOps, starting with culture, right? If you think about culture, as a matter of fact, in my organization, we are implementing right now GitHub Copilot. And you would think it's going to be easy, because everybody, all developers will want to jump into that and take opportunity to learn, and having, Copilot, someone else actually checking your code and suggesting and writing this. It takes a lot of effort to really convince people. Some people will just get used to it. So culture is really important, right? The other stuff, the other elements of DevOps is automation. That's obvious that we want to automate, and using, let's say, GitHub Copilot is one of the potential opportunities. The same with metrics. That's one of the elements of DevOps. How we measure, how we're making progress. The same thing. You can actually use AI to provide you with a lot of information. And the lean processes, obviously, but I think one which is really important for me, and that's like my dream, that in the future we are going to have no ops. So we are going to have self-recovery systems, and actually AI can help with that. So it's almost like getting ourselves out of the job, but it's not true, because what we are strong is actually we can solve some problems. AI is not going to solve the problems that only humans can do. So we can really focus on those areas that are really important. So, welcome, and I'm going to hand over to Willie to introduce the speakers.
Thank you, Andre, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Meetup. You've made it through another month, and welcome to the March Meetup. I'm one of the organizers, and as Andre mentioned, I'm also one of the managers that is trying to convince our engineers to embrace Copilot. It's quite a slog, but we'll get there. So the first session that we're going to present to, or that we will be listening to, is navigating the intersection of recruitment, DevOps, and community collaboration for growth goals in today's tech landscape. And it's presented by Piers Lawson, account executive from iFathom Corporation, supporting IT recruitment teams for WorksafeBC and PHSA. And I'm going to pause here. Piers, I hate TLAs, three-lettered acronyms. What's PHSA?
Professional Health Services Authority of British Columbia.
Thank you. He's bringing 15 years of experience and a lot of acronyms in business development, in fast-paced environments, both in the UK and Canada. So with that, I will hand over the mic to you, Piers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for coming. Yeah, my name is Piers. I work for iFathom Corporation. We support federal government and we support WorksSafeBC PHSA tech resources with IT resources. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you about the market. I'm going to talk to you about what people are looking for and what projects are going on. Hopefully connect some dots with you, because you've all been to school, you've got your qualifications, you've got your experience, and as Andre said, yeah, people have been let go, you're looking for more money, you're like, oh, I've been in this job for 5 years, I want a pay rise. So I'm going to help you connect the dots to make you look attractive and talk about the technologies that are coming through the market, and also talk about, you know, what might happen in the future. So yeah, iFathom were established in 1991, and we got offices in Ottawa, Vancouver and Toronto. So if anyone's working in different time zones or wants to lay in or vice versa, we can support you with different businesses. So this is what we're finding currently right now. I'm going to play a game. Put your hand up if you see your job title on here. Okay. Put your hand up if you work in one of those, keep your hand up if you've got one of those industries. Okay, brilliant. Now keep your hand up if you're working on one of these projects. Brilliant, you're in demand, right? This is what's going on in Vancouver. These are the pods and the types of people you're working with, right? And these are the industries you want, so you know, if you're more attracted for helping our health authorities, they need some help right now. We're trying to digitize our healthcare. There's a lot going on. We're translating data, we're creating warehouses to make sure the data is correct, we're creating APIs to make tools, widgets. There's a lot going on there. So when you're applying for these roles, take a deep look inside the project and say, who am I? What do I want to do? And have I done it already? Because these are enterprise level. You need to be dealing with thousands of data. You know, lots of information is going through. It needs to be correct. And when you're applying for these jobs, you need to talk about how you've worked in a pod, how you've communicated with directors and analysts, because they use different vernacular. You don't speak to an analyst the same as you do director. You don't take the same instructions, etc., and so on. And then you connect that. You say, I work in these pods, I work in these projects. I've enhanced the energy for BC Hydro by X%, and this is how I did it, and this is what we did, right? You need to really talk to this. This is what's going on in Vancouver right now. And we'll do a Q&A at the end, but if you're really desperate, I'm not too bothered if you shout my name. So this is why DevOps matters. You're all here for the same reason. It speeds things up, it enhances efficiency, it makes a team of people one brain to one goal. And these questions on the board that I've put up here are the types of questions that project managers are going to start asking you. You need to talk about how you have enhanced an enterprise environment with cross-functional teams, and how you've been in the DevOps environment and communicated with finance people to make sure you're on budget, communicated with developers to make sure they've got the right code. There's a lot of cogs going in these wheels, and these are the types of questions that these big companies, where you guys are, your job titles are on there, we want you, right? We need these types of people. We need enterprise level people that have worked on legacy, AI, digital, right? In a DevOps environment, because you need to you need to work with different teams, cross-functional teams. So yeah, this is the kind of general flow of what managers are looking for, and they'll really target you on your questions. And actually, guys, when you're applying for jobs, I'd highly recommend answering these in a fashion where you're actually outlining the project. Because a lot of these jobs, you know, they want people like you, but you need to make yourself very clear. You know, you need to actually read the projects and actually say, I've read your project manager or company, and I believe I can help by doing this, because I've done this already. because they're not going to read just your resume. They want to see that you align with their, we talk about culture, Andre talks about culture. You need to align with your business's goals. You need to align with their mandate, their core values, because these pods are polluted with good energy that you need to be on the same page with. And that summarizes DevOps from a recruitment standpoint. These are some popular companies that are DevOps. I think the top 20 companies that are in a DevOps environment. These guys, there's a lot of money going on here, so if you want a bigger paycheck, these are the big ones you have to work with here. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to dive deeper into the companies I support. iFathom, we onboard contractors, and these are the types of projects we're working with. Right, PHSA. You need to talk to different people. You need to talk to the emergency services, Vancouver Coastal Health, Fraser Health Authority. There's a lot of different projects going on. The primary health care initiative is formulated of 8 different projects and 8 different departments that you need to communicate to make sure that you're on target. These are the job titles they hire for. These are successful placements that we're able to get people in. Cybersecurity, that's big right now. We've got a lot of data. How do we protect our province's data? How do we protect your patient medical records from not getting out without destroying efficiency for the digital component? We're going to have digital records on our phone. We're just not there yet. We're still implementing infrastructure, right? So there's a lot going on here. And to talk about perhaps hierarchy, you need to start you're not going to get the big paycheck straight away, because we're here to enter a big environment, work our backsides off and learn and grow, both career capital and wealth capital. But you need to start kind of boots on the ground, business analyst. That's where you need to start. If you've just got out of school and you've got these great qualifications, you've invested in yourself, you're taking passion, you've got an industry, you need to start at the bottom, boots on the ground. Right now we're upgrading our phone systems, right? Right now we're trying to get our phone systems to work like Apple, like, oh yes, I have a problem, my phone's not working. Okay, I'm going to transfer you to that. But we need people boots on the ground to replace these network cables. Once again, there's a lot going on in our healthcare right now. WorksSafeBC, they've got a lot going on too. They've got 20 different DevOps pods filled with these types of job roles, right? And you're going to be in a cross-functional environment as well, so talking to lots of different people, making sure everything aligns, making sure you're working in an agile environment, and these are what they've been hiring for this year. There's a lot going on. When you want to work for BC's top employer as well, these companies, the PHSA, the WorksSafeBC, they want people to stay for a long time. They want to look after their people, and but you've got to align with their goals. You can't just apply, click apply, click apply. You've got to align with the goals. I can help here because I am and I can help this project. I communicate well with cross-functional teams. Here is an example, here's a reference. You're fighting against maybe 10 other people that are going for the job. You're just going to click and apply, or you're going to add a little bit more information. And I hope this kind of gives you a bit of a roadmap of where you start, where you want to go, where you can grow. Tech Resources, it's another client that says DevOps. They've been awarded a few good employer awards as well. And they're all about their Race 21 initiative right now, which is all about health and safety. Make sure their workers are healthy and safety. You see a trend here, a lot of health stuff, a lot of health things going on. And this is the technical environment that they look for. So if you have any of these, qualifications, if you're one of these job titles, I'd love to hear from you, because this is what Tech Resources wants. Tech Resources are looking to hire a lot more in April and May. HSBC, this was before my time at iFathom, but we were ranked #1 on the vendor list. And the reason why is because we really dig into these projects, right? So if you come on board with iFathom, I'll meet with your managers every 6 weeks just to ensure that you're on track. I'll give you feedback. We'll talk about your goals. I've managed to get or this year, 4 of my consultants pay rises and promotions. Right, I'm on your team, but you have to work with me, and this is what we need. I want to work with people that, and WorksSafeBC, Tech Resources, HSBC, they all need this type of communication. They've got lots of problems to solve. These are all the technologies that all the companies I've spoken to are looking for right now. Okay, there's big focus on AWS, there's big focus on Microsoft Dynamics, Microsoft 365, cloud integration. We're trying to get away from legacy and dust off the old equipment. Canada's got very dated equipment in the government sector, and it just needs a little bit of a pickup. Some businesses are going from legacy to digital. Some businesses are jumping all the way to AI, right? And we talk about how we want to move from development to operations. So why don't we develop the AI to ensure that we can automate operations? And then technically we're programmers, but we need to start from the bottom. We need to, do the cables, inception, delivery, etc. I believe in core values. I believe in all these core values. iFathom. We learn together, we grow together. Like I said, I want to work with you to hit your goals. Is your goal to have a house? Is your goal to have a great career? Is your goal to work with the health force? That's what I want to hear about. And we'll work with you to get you into these places, and we'll give you honest feedback. So I meet with managers on different projects. And I'll show them the resume. I'll say, hey, what do you think of this person? This person really wants to work with you. They've got all the qualifications, they've got the years of experience, and I can give you positive feedback like that. But you've got to work with me, and it's a bit of to and fro. That is, I think, the end of my. If I open to questions, if anyone has any questions.
I see a lot of cloud technologies. Are there any new data centers being built around at all?
I think a lot of people are moving away from data centers. But I don't have the answer for you, sorry. I can't give you a direct one.
There aren't that many data centers in Vancouver because of the fault line.
Because of what?
Earthquake risk.
Calgary.
So, yeah.
AWS's new regions is in Calgary. Vancouver will have what do they call it? Remote. It's like a micro.
The micro site that AWS is
yeah.
There's one in Kamloops for the health authorities, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be on in that area. It's good for the seismic stability, which is what they want for data centers.
CoreLogics is building a band 3 near here, and so big folks that are looking for expansion in the lower mainland are heading to band 3. City of Burnaby is just releasing some space, so folks need local space. City of Burnaby is looking. Most of the provincial stuff is heading into Kamloops.
Yeah.
So there are still some data center build-outs. There are still, a few megawatts of power consumed in data centers in BC, and that's not shrinking fast. There's not a lot of repatriation happening in the BC market, so some of the really large companies are starting to repatriate cloud to their own data centers, but that's not happening a lot in Canada, because frankly most of our companies are too small.
There's only one guy and his dog in the data center anyway, it's a pretty easy operation. Any other questions? Right, thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much, Piers. The next session we'll be enjoying is exploring GenAI in DevOps, streamlining tools and techniques for efficiency.
There's 4 of us doing.
That's 4.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
different things.
So it was originally to be presented by Will Sheldon.
I'm up last.
He's the CEO and co-founder of Autimo, a cloud services consultancy headquartered in Vancouver. He previously worked at Amazon and at Best Buy. And I will hand over to you. I think you've got 81 minutes, all your colleagues.
So we'll start with Grayson, who's going to give us an intro to Autimo, I think.
So you'll have 81 minutes for an intro into Autimo, GenAI, AWS, and DevOps teams.
We can do it.
Have fun.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for attending tonight. Yeah, we were saying we've got some nice talks coming up around GenAI and some exciting stuff there, some of the tooling. But before we get into that, I just want to do a quick intro on who we are, what we do, to just provide some context into some of that stuff as well. So yeah, we'll get into it. First, I just want to pose a quick question to the audience here. So if you all go to menti.com, that's the code you can enter as well to input your feedback there. And the question is, what do you feel is the main thing that's holding your team back from its full potential at present time? This doesn't have to be a super in-depth response by any means. You know, if you're thinking technical debt or lack of tools or lack of resources, anything simple like that. And as well, if you're currently, in the job market looking for something, think back to a previous role as well. And don't worry if you don't have anything top of mind right now. You can just, we're going to keep that code at the bottom there. So feel free, as we go along, if anything comes up, you can go from there. So about Autimo. So yeah, we're a locally based, Vancouver-based cloud DevOps AI consulting services company. Been around for about 6 years now. And there's about 15 of us total. So we're still pretty lean and right sized for the organizations that we typically work with. When it comes to cloud, DevOps, AI, those are obviously pretty broad definitions, but for us what it comes down to is automation. So on any given day, if you were to look over our shoulder, what that typically kind of looks like is infrastructure as code, writing a lot of Terraform, putting these into containers, as well a lot of cloud foundation type work, so setting up landing zones, control towers, those types of things. And our vision, our aim is to democratize advanced cloud engineering, wisdom, process, and practice. So just want to look at this graph really quickly here. Obviously what it shows here is the rate of change of technology compared to business productivity over a given amount of time. I think Andre was alluding this to earlier, like there's obviously all these new technologies and tools, but at the same time, we're not seeing the implementation, the actual business productivity gains from those tools and the technology that we're seeing. This can be with AI, it also happens in cloud and DevOps as well. So there's a lot of reasons why this could be, and it's, the main thing is really comes down to human adjustability, or really the lack of that adjustability. It's difficult. There's all these new technologies, but it's hard to actually implement them and take full advantage of them. So what are some things we can do to try and mitigate that? Well, that's where you can, working with a specialty firm like Autimo, where we've got sort of the experience, the expertise, and the approach to actually implementing and taking advantage of these technologies. So, really what it comes down to, rather than potentially falling behind this curve, you're able to close that gap a little bit. So we can talk a little bit about what that approach looks like. Kind of goes back to how we all started. So Will, Warren, our founders, founded about 6 years ago. And it was basically, they had been working together previously, and then they split up. Will had spent some time at both Amazon Canada as an IT manager and Best Buy as an infrastructure platform manager. And in his time there, it was, he worked with a variety of cloud consultants and other contractors. And what he noticed was, in a lot of cases, they would come in, they'd do some work, and in a lot of cases, that work was not up to the standard that they probably would have liked, and ends up leaving more of a mess than the benefit was there. And so there's a lack of documentation, a lack of proper handover, And at the same time, his teams, they're so inundated with, the day-to-day that they're finding it difficult to actually put the time in to actually get ahead. I'm sure that's probably pretty relevant and common thing that everyone can attest to. And then at the same time, Warren, he's spent many years working from startups on various cloud infrastructure projects to Fortune 500 companies. So he's gained all the experience, the knowledge, and the wisdom, and that's where they want to get back together and start to share that. So they started Autimo, and they both kind of noticed that gap that I was just talking about, and the gap in the way that cloud consulting worked. And so their goal was to help organizations realize the potential of those cloud technologies, at the same time raising the technical bar of the organizations they work with. So basically what that looks like in a practical sense is, from the outset, working very closely with customers to understand the business goals, objectives, challenges, and then from there designing the technology strategy around that, so that it's aligned with where the business wants to go, and so they were actually making a business difference. And then as well, helping implement the strategy and the documentation process throughout that as well. And so basically the philosophy in the end is that, if we're doing our jobs right, organizations can, basically pull themselves away from us at any time, and, they'll be in a better spot than when we started. So these are our core values. So these are some things that we take very seriously, very passionate about. Education, like I was talking about, our goal is to always learn from each other and share that knowledge with people in the community, like here tonight. Building long-term sustainable relationships. So again, that's all about taking the time to invest in those relationships and ensuring mutual success between the multiple groups. Open business, so we believe strongly in shared value systems like open source software, Creative Commons, and then longevity, so creating long-term solutions that stand the test of time, not just for today, but for the months and years ahead. So just a quick overview of some of our customers. So this is Elena with the BC government. Most of our customers are based here locally around Vancouver. So basically the situation with them, they were looking to give fast, easy access to the hundreds of teams that they had to cloud environments. At the same time, it has to be secure, compliant. Obviously, anything to do with the government, it's you're adhering to the highest possible regulations and compliance standards. So what we did for them was implement a landing zone with all the built-in access controls and policies, frameworks. And at the click of a button, any team can now have access to those environments, and at the same time, leadership has the oversight, the visibility into what's going on and seeing where their resources are being used. So it was a pretty cool project and still something we're working on now. Another one, Hero Innovation. So yeah, they're a local fintech here in Vancouver. When they came to us, they had about 2 developers. They were planning on growing to a team of 20 plus within just a few months. So they need to make sure that they have the right infrastructure in place to basically make sure that their developers could onboard quickly, ramp up quickly, be able to deploy code in a short matter of time without having to worry about the underlying infrastructure. So what we did for them was develop a cloud development platform using the AWS Control Tower, set up a well-architected multi-account landing zone to govern all the AWS workloads, use Terraform infrastructure as code, basically to help give friction-free access to the devs, and as well implemented CI/CD on top of their existing GitLab tooling. End result for them was over 2,500 new deployments in the 6 months following, and 0 infrastructure-related incidents or defects. And then Concert Properties. So they're local real estate development company. They've got about 8 billion in assets, backed by over 200,000 Canadians, and they have over 120 domains deployed to a variety of hosting solutions, including managed services, co-located services. So pretty complex environments. Maintenance was quite a bit of a hassle for them with all those wide variety of environments, legacy applications and whatnot. Monitoring was also pretty limited at the time. In many cases, customers were actually the first ones to notice any issues with sites or any of their products. And as well as a pretty laborious, manual-intensive process to create new environments as well. So we did an initial audit and assessment of the 120 domains. It was determined that only 30 were live, so there was a lot of redundant environments there that could be offloaded or spun down. And so basically the solution we ended up putting forward was an overarching containerized design to meet the fluctuating traffic loads, Terraform, which allows for rapid redeployment, and it's also well faster operational support and faster spin up of new environments. And end result was improved reliability, security, and 70% reduction in operating costs. So that was pretty cool. I talked a little bit about landings though, so here's just a sample architecture of what that can look like. Basically what it is, it's a standard entry point to AWS environments. So it's got, like I said, all the built-in integrated rule-based access control, role assignment, all those authentication, all those types of things. Not going to go into too much detail here. Julian's going to be talking about this in a little bit, so I'll leave that for him. But yeah, it's just what that kind of looks like. And then I'll wrap up here with some of our partnerships. So, we're partners with pretty much all the major leading clouds. And again, this kind of goes back to picking the right technology for the business, requirements, not the other way around. So yeah. If you'd like to get in touch, Autimo.com, or shoot me an email, or shoot any of us an email. It's all just first name at Autimo.com. And that's what it is. So, any questions? Yeah.
So thanks for the great presentation. It's like doing a lot of work at a scale.
Yeah.
So just I was curious, like for automation, right? You mentioned Terraform, and you created a lot of automation for your customers. So how you make sure, right, it doesn't drift, right, going forward in a long run? Because when we kind of do it first time, people follow the things, right? Like everything is automation, but as we make progress, like organization, deployment happens. So sometimes infrastructure and application, there's a lot of drift, right, within the configuration. So how do you make sure it is like, or you put policies by putting this automation, right? There's no drift.
Yeah, could be a technical side question.
Underneath those, I know those buzz when we get in there. Yeah, so I mean that's definitely a tough problem for a lot of organizations. I mean, some of the things you can do is have good process in place. So for Terraform in particular, infrastructure as code, you can run plans frequently that alert you if there's changes, so that can show, if something's been changed maybe outside through the console, through the CLI. You can run regular audits. You can, the more frequently you deploy, the more you're gonna, even your infrastructure, the more you're gonna notice it once things have changed. So there's a lot of things in the DevOps process. If you take the DevOps mindset, even for your infrastructure, that's definitely gonna help. I would also suggest, especially for production environments, one of the things you can do is limit who has access to those production environments outside of your sort of automated workflows, so that only the people who have access, necessary access, then there's not going to be people in there changing things in your production environments and causing drift. So think there's no one solution to all of that. In Terraform in particular, Terraform's not going to manage everything in, say, AWS or Google or Azure. It just manages the resources that it's been defined for. So, and it's entirely possible that you're managing some things, say with Terraform. Maybe you're managing some things with Cloud CDK. That there's a variety of infrastructure tools, and different teams may use different tools. So you're going to have a mix of these things, and there's no silver bullet answer to these questions. A lot of it comes down to process, making sure that people have the right access, and that you educate people on the right way to make changes in your environment.
Thank you. Did I ask, we are also moving from ARM template in WorksSafeBC to Terraform.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. Very interesting.
So yeah, I'll turn it over to Kevin to talk about some of the up-and-coming AI tools for development and DevOps.
Hello everyone, so I'm Kevin. I'm a DevOps in the Autimo team. I'm really happy to present to you today some cool tools that comes from the future. So my idea for this presentation is that I love tools, but I actually hate for me to be presented with tools when I don't really know how to use it or what they can do. So today my idea was to present to you only a few tools, but with the explanation of why and how I'm using them. Also, I wanted as much as I can for everyone to be able to take a little bit with them. So even though it's mostly focused on DevOps usage, especially with some of the tools that you are going to see, some of them are able to be used by everyone and can help in any of the aspects of your work and day-to-day job. So Perplexity, this is one of the tools that any of you can use starting from today. It has become one of my new starting points. It used to be Google. It still is, obviously. But Perplexity is a great tool to do search. So it's basically using generative AI to summarize and explain in more depth web search. So it's not limited by the training as the ChatGPT is. It's able to actually grab information that has been released recently. And the big plus of this is that in comparison to ChatGPT, it's actually able to provide sources, which is extremely helpful. And one of the reasons why it's helpful in the DevOps life is that when it's providing code, it's providing the source of the code, so you can actually check the link and see the version, for example, of the code on which the code has been produced. Because this is often an issue with ChatGPT. It gives you code that is out of date, and then to find that it was actually out of date, it's really difficult. And a topic that I haven't experienced myself, but has came up often as I was doing search, is that it's actually apparently really good at solving hard math problems using for Wolfram Alpha. And to talk about some of the weaknesses, one of the big ones is inconsistency. Those tools, ChatGPT and all of the AI tools, are great because when it gives you the good result, it feels like magic, but often it's really annoying because sometimes you ask a question and it gives total nonsense or no response at all. And this is the case of Perplexity. Sometimes you ask some question and you are surprised by the fact that it's able to answer to you, and sometimes you ask another question and you see the limitation because it's not able to answer to you at all. And so this is some screenshot of the interface, so you can see that it asks a very simple question, but sometimes it is a little bit annoying because you have to scroll through some links to get to the answer. And so you can see over there, so this is a screenshot of an extract of the page. You can see the answer over there, and you can see the one. This is the source that I was talking about. It's like a Wikipedia reference. And when you click on that, in this example, you cannot really see because my screenshot is not very good, but it was linking to the home page of the GitHub project of Cursor. And so at the bottom of the page, there were this mention, and if you check, you can actually see that it's rephrased this sentence into the answer section over there. So saving a bunch of time. Then, once the research are done, it's time for some development. So this is where we lost all of the non-DevOps people. But Cursor is a great IDE, integrated with AI, obviously. Some of the really good features are inline code editing. So you can select code snippet or directly into your file or code file. You can invite the ChatGPT prompt, and you can ask for it to directly write function into your code or to modify some of the code snippet that you give. Also, it eliminates copy pasting. The reason is that you can select, instead of copying code from your code in IDE and pasting it into your ChatGPT or whatever for development, you can directly select code, and through a shortcut, it's going to open a new chat with ChatGPT, and you are going to be able to discuss your code right away. With that come file referencing. It's also able to create a database of your local file and extract some of those content for providing better context for the request that you are going to do on ChatGPT or the tools that you are using. Oops, this was a little bit too long. Also, something really cool, it's not restricting the LLM plugins, not plugin, but like connection. So you can use ChatGPT, you can use others. Cursor comes with a necessary account because they are providing their own ChatGPT API key, but you can provide your own, and this is one of the weaknesses that I've put. If you don't provide your own key, you are going to be limited in the number of questions and mostly the latency that you are going to get from ChatGPT answers. And if you provide your own, you can use ChatGPT with your own API. So no limitation potentially. Then we have done the code, and it's time for it to be reviewed. CodeRabbit AI is a really cool code review assistant. So it starts by simply adding the details of the PR automatically, which is something that is sometimes annoying to do as a dev. And also it does continuous and incremental review. So basically every time you push new code, it's going to analyze it, and it's going to be cost efficient, and it's going to try to reduce most noises as much as it can, because it's able to understand the basic changes of like typos and non-functional code changes and actual in-depth code changing. Based on that, he's going to be able to do line-by-line code changes suggestions. So if an error somewhere in your PR is detected, he's going to be able to provide the code that would fix the issue. Or if sometimes it's also able to see what was wanted to be done and what was actually done, and if there is any differences, explain that. Also, really briefly, it has some chatbot functionalities for some easier access and use. Only drawback, it started 1660, and it's also alleviated by the fact that open source project can use it for free with some limitation. Some documentation, who loves to do documentation? So it can be done automatically now in most cases. Scrape AI is powered by AI. Is powered by AI to create that. What it's going to do is that it's going to do a screen recording, and based on the screen recording, it's going to create screenshot on wherever you have clicked, and it's going to create a path to follow with all of the click with the mouse and all of the pages, and it's going to do all of the screenshot automatically. Then it's going to present it to you in the editor mode, where you're going to be able pretty easily, with automatically generated title, to manage your section, add screenshot, remove screenshot, add indication, and stuff like that. The only weakness is that it's necessary to get a paid subscription to get any other format than PDF, and if you do, you can get HTML and some other format that I forgot, but it's actually a drawback. And the biggest drawback for me, as working in a service company, obviously, is confidentiality. This is difficult. So since it's based on screen recording, and that those screen recording are going to be sent to a third-party service, you cannot necessarily screenshot everything. So you cannot, for example, go into the AWS account of your client to create a doc and recall all of the pages of your of the AWS account, because you are going to leak some information. And this is some of the example of this. So on the left you have the editing mode of the website, and on the right you have the result of the PDF that is created. It's only a small extract, but the PDF was much longer. And you can see all of the orange stuff is where you have clicked. So you don't have to, it's highlighting automatically where you have clicked, which is really helpful. Just a really short mention of ChatGPT and DALL-E. It's not really necessary to put them here, in fact, but obviously credit is due. ChatGPT and DALL-E are now day-to-day tools that I'm using all the time for inspiration of this very topic and improving the writing quality of this very topic in this presentation. Also to help create structure, and most of those images that you have seen, I'm not going to say anything, but it's presented by Dave. Final words. So final words, all of those tools are really incredible. Sometimes extremely annoying, as I said, because the magical aspect is sometimes conflicting with the very, very bad result that you can get. But it enhancing productivity most of the time. It's enabling user, because I'm now able, with those assistants, to be able to do things that I would have never been able to do. For example, create some really cool images. And improve creativity. This comes with the other fact of fast and cheap iteration. Those AI tools, and especially I'm thinking of ChatGPT on this case, but in many other tools, it's allowing you to create really fast and really short iteration that is going to give you an idea of what it would do if you were to conclude this idea all the way. And this in a much, much shorter time than what it would have cost you to develop your own beginning of journey towards whatever you wanted to develop. So, last point, really fast evolution. This is the hardest point, and it's going to be something that everyone here is going to face, is the fact that the sector is evolving extremely fast, and so keeping up to date is extremely difficult, really, really difficult. Attending those meetup is really useful for that, but keeping up to date with everything that is released on the day-to-day is not easy and a job on itself. So that's it for my presentation. Lauren is going to bring us some demo on much more technical stuff on what you can do with the basic ChatGPT chain. Is there any question before we do that? And Lauren, take the time to set up.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah. All right. So, welcome everyone. My name is Warren Unesky, and I'll just get my slides set up here real quick. So, who am I? Warren Unesky. I'm the CTO of Autimo. I've been working in and around software and DevOps for way too long now. The years go by quickly. So what I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about is generative AI in the DevOps process. So Kevin kind of showed you how generative AI can be used sort of from the perspective of the developer and the user and that sort of thing. And I think Andre's intro to the sort of topic was actually a very perfect intro to what I'm going to present. So that was really nice. So let's just kind of see what we're going to do. So first of all, we're going to talk about what I mean by generative AI in the DevOps process. So we'll talk about that, have a little intro. I'm going to show you what we're doing today, what we can replace it with tomorrow with generative AI. I'm going to give you a live demo of an interesting solution that I put together for you. And then we're going to talk about where we can take it into the future. And then we're going to have, we can ask some questions and have a discussion about it. So, generative AI in the DevOps process. So one of the things, you've all seen this diagram a million times, famous diagram. The question I like to pose is, where can we use generative AI in each stage of this process. We can kind of like focus on each stage. I think the most common area where people's mind go to is how can we use it to code, right? Like how do we write new code? How do we write new maybe CI/CD pipelines? How do we use it to automate our job in that sense? And I think that there's many other areas of this process that we can take a look at. So today I'm going to focus on the monitoring phase of this, and we're gonna look at a sort of toy application that I've thrown together for this demo. So the toy application is a Discord bot. It's a serverless Discord bot built on top of an AWS Lambda. And I think in monitoring today, what you have is maybe something that's collecting metrics and logs from your application, whether it's deployed in cloud or on-premise. And then often it sends alerts. So you'll collect some error, you'll send an alert to make Slack, PagerDuty, wake someone up, that sort of thing. But one of the things this does is it takes developers out of their workflow. So developers are happy in front of their IDE, writing code, maybe looking at their GitHub pull requests and that sort of thing. The minute you make them click on an alert in Slack, you've taken them out of their workflow. They maybe have to go into some other tool like the AWS console. They need to have access to that console. So they need to have the credentials to log in. Maybe not all of them have that. Maybe you don't want to give them everyone those credentials. So these are some of the problems that I think we can address with generative AI in this monitoring process. So what can it look like tomorrow? So this is the same application, but on the right there, instead of sending an alert to Slack, I'm going to talk about how we can use generative AI to gather and collect information from the environment, the error, potentially the code itself, and use that to synthesize some bit of information about that error and create actionable insights that our developers can use, and then send that right back to where the developer works. So that's in GitHub. So in this case, in this demo, we're going to create a GitHub issue from an error, and hopefully collect a bunch of other surrounding information and present that as a GitHub issue. So in this demo, what we're going to do is we're going to create a CloudWatch log subscription filter that's going to be looking for errors in that Discord bot. That is going to trigger our GitHub issue creator Lambda. It's going to collect the error, so it gets the error, the log message for free, because that comes from the CloudWatch log subscription filter. But it's also going to collect the information of the name of the Lambda that triggered that error. Then we're going to look up the code directly from the Lambda that triggered the error. We're going to download the code from the Lambda that triggered the error. So now we have the code as context and the error as context. And I think you can imagine collecting other bits of information, maybe metrics from there, so time, information about how long it took to run. Maybe this is part of a more complex application, and it's a distributed application. You might be able to collect tracing information, other things like that. In this case, this is a very simple application, so we're just going to collect the log information, and we're going to collect the code. So I'm going to show you kind of like what this looks like in practice. So yeah, let's get to some demo time. Okay, so first of all, just so you know, this is all the code in this project is available in an open source and repository that we have. There'll be a QR code at the end, or if you want to, stick that, hit the link, you can take a look at it. I'm just going to show you a quick little bit of the anatomy of what the code looks like. We're not going to dig into a ton of code today here, because that's not really the purpose. The purpose is more to talk about the general concept of what's possible using generative AI. And hopefully, get you guys excited about it, thinking about it, and building new cool stuff. So I'm just going to show you first. Okay, so first of all, like any good cloud developer and DevOps, we've written Terraform. We've written for all of this code. So all of this code is deployed using Terraform. there's GitHub workflows for doing that. So we've implemented a bunch of the phases of that process. And then there's two main bits of code. There's one for the Discord bot, which we won't really look at because that doesn't really matter. And then there's this. This is the actually the issue creator where we actually do the call into OpenAI. In this case, we're using OpenAI. Again, I would caution you to consider where you're sending your data. So if you're taking log messages, code, all those sorts of things, you might want to consider whether using OpenAI API is something that's appropriate for your use case. Maybe you're working in a sensitive environment. Those log error messages could contain sensitive data potentially. So do consider that. Lots of cloud providers, Azure, Google, AWS, they all do have generative AI foundation model services where you can run them in the cloud environment and not send your data externally. So absolutely look at those if you have sensitive data. If you're running on-prem, there's even lots of interesting and useful local models that are available today, and you can interact with this sort of stuff. So take a look at those as well. So the basic anatomy of what we're going to do is take a look at this Discord bot. So this is just running. I pre-installed this Discord bot in my server. Here's the bot here. And what this bot does is it has two / commands. One that works and one that doesn't. So this first / command, I can just send it, and we can say, hello, and it responds back, okay, hi. So that's nice. On this next / command, it has a bug. It has an error. And so when I send the / command, I get the interaction failed. Okay. So what can we do? On this repo, so right now there's no open issues. Right now our issue creator Lambda was triggered by a log subscription filter. It's gathering that information, and I'll show you kind of just the one bit of code we'll look at because it's kind of fun. Is we'll look at how it gathers some of that information and then how it makes the call to OpenAI and then create the issue. So we'll give this, it can take 30 seconds or so we'll see. While we're waiting, we'll go back to the code. So this is the issue creator Lambda. And the thing it does is it exports, it actually gets the log event in the trigger. So it kind of takes out the log data. We won't dig into this function, but from the name of the Lambda that triggered the error, we just extract the code. You can do that via the API in AWS, so we get the Lambda code. And now this is the interesting part, okay, the prompt. So what we do is we say, give the following Lambda code and error logs, write a GitHub issue, title and body in markdown format. The body should be a detailed explanation of the issue and the solution. We provide the context, which is the Lambda name, the Lambda code, and the error logs that triggered this. This is actually a cool example. So this is Cursor AI that Kevin was showing you. So this is what he meant by if you want to it to write code for you, you can kind of do this and you can say, please edit this, and then it'll actually edit those lines of code. So yeah, definitely check out Cursor AI. It's pretty cool. So once we have this prompt, all we do is we take the prompt and I just say to ChatGPT or the OpenAI API, you're an expert programmer. And then I pass in the rest of the prompt. And then we get a response. So from that response, we then create a GitHub issue. The one sort of little trick here that we've done is in order to know where to create the GitHub issue, I added a tag onto the Discord bot Lambda. That's the only link to the actual application in this. If you didn't want to create a GitHub issue on the repo where the code came from, then you could technically deploy this sort of thing into any environment and just create issues related to it directly from the code. But if you provide a simple tag or something like that on for every Lambda, what repo created it, where does the code live, you could install this solution to an already existing AWS environment, and it would just kind of start working. So pretty interesting, pretty cool. Okay, I'm sure this is done creating our issue now, so let's go back and have a look. Okay, so there's our issue. So let's have a quick little read. Fixed typo in logging method causing attribute error in Discord bot. The Discord bot Lambda function, so we just kind of scan through here and see what it's doing. Cool. Okay, here's the thing. So it's saying, here's the probe. Correct typo in the command handler. Function from logger.ino to logger.info. Okay, so I made a typo in my logging command. And then it shows you the actual error logs that caused it. And so, it kind of gives you a little bit of a solution. So you can see as a developer who gets this, you're not just getting, hey, the Lambda failed, you're getting the actual code lines, proposed solution, and the issue created for you right where you work in GitHub, so you can just start doing that. Getting to work to fixing it. I think you can probably also think of maybe some next steps in that process, where maybe you have another bot or something on the other side that takes that and creates a pull request from it to fix that issue. So you might be able to close that loop a little bit further. But overall, I think this is a really simple example. This is a single call to ChatGPT, and it actually unlocks quite a bit of value with that one single call, which is really interesting. So, I don't think a lot of people are thinking, oh, we have to build these complicated agents that are, doing multiple calls and reasoning over this, over multiple bits of data and extracting data from lots of sources. I think if you can think of a very specific and simple problem, provide the right context for that problem, you can solve and get a lot of value out of these systems very quickly. So hopefully this sort of small demo demonstrates that a little bit. We can kind of maybe take a second to close the loop and let's just fix this problem. So if we go into the Discord bot, let's go find that command where the issue was. So where did it say it was? Command handler is where it said it was. Okay, yeah, there it is. There's the problem. So let's fix. Well, let's not create another problem. All right. Okay. So let's not just commit this directly to our main branch and prod and have it deploy. Let's do a proper process and create a pull request. Then at that same time, we can kind of see what CodeRabbit does. So let's try that. Write a meaningful commit message. Cool. All right, so let's create this pull request. So here's CodeRabbit. It kind of just pops up in there, which is kind of cool while it's processing. So it might take a few minutes. When you're on the free tier or open source, you can only do so many in a given amount of time. So if you're pushing commits and pull request lots, that's going to be an issue. You can also see that our sort of CI/CD is running and making sure that that's all good. So yeah, just give this another second, see if anything interesting pops up. So it kind of gives you some information about the commits that are in the PR, what it's doing, the files it's selected for processing. So in this case, it's just selecting the file that we changed. Okay, so we can just go ahead and merge this while we're waiting, and we'll come back to this. We'll let this generate that, but then we'll also deploy our solution. We'll go make sure that fixed it. So now we got our Terraform going off and doing its thing, deploying this. And think while we're letting this do, we'll come check back on this later. Maybe I'll just kind of jump to the future for a second and say a few words about this. So what is the future? I think the future is finding ways to use generative AI to fill in some of the other parts of this process. So we saw what it can do in monitoring, but there's many other different ways we can do it. So maybe we can, like I mentioned before, use the GitHub issue that we created as input to help generate a PR. Maybe we can generate test cases and test data. We can probably use it to more efficiently operate workloads and scale them. So there's lots of things we can do to think about it. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you guys all with some homework, which is to go figure out how we can use generative AI to fill in the rest of the bits of those process. So yeah, I think with that, I will say, we'll come back and take a quick look at what happened. But yeah, so here's the QR code if you want to go look at that repo, jump in, and yeah, happy to take questions. So thanks a lot.
Well, too many questions. Well, make it narrow down. It's like I feel like I'm pressured to do. I have worked the last 8 years on this monitoring. My first question was, I want to confirm that developer job reducing means still you said metrics and logs, right? For monitoring, 3 things important for us: metrics, logs, as well as traces.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm assuming that's also be part of this one, first thing?
No, this is simple.
Okay, then my second thing is, still, I feel that it's still a developer responsibility. I'm limiting our experimentation to GenAI with the latest cloud-native architectures like microservices, assuming that still I'm saying that it's a developer responsibility to expose the metrics to whatever framework they have, so that I, as a monitoring guy, can consume those metrics, right? Is the statement is right statement? Still is developer responsibility to expose the metrics. For example, in Springboard, there is after the bus metrics can be exposed using the micro-meter integration the Springboard 2 RX is giving. But I mean, is a point statement is the right statement? Even in GenAI world, is a developer has to expose what metrics I wanted to expose so that I can have a dashboard, a successful payments or failed payments or whatever, number of deliveries happen, a pizza delivered, this sort of statistics should be coming from the service, right?
For sure, yeah. You're still gonna, if you want to build telemetry into your application, you're still gonna need to expose that telemetry. Like a Lambda is not gonna know what's going on at every step of the process in between. Lambdas maybe are a little bit easier because they're short little bits of code that generally, if you're writing them in that way. But if you're using, if you're kind of sort of automating or taking your telemetry from your applications, and maybe you're using OpenTelemetry, Prometheus to send that data, you can imagine how you can use that data in the same way, as what I was showing here. So in that case, yeah, you're right. It's still the developer's responsibility to expose those metrics, make those metrics available, figure out what metrics might be useful. And the metrics that are going to be useful for generative AI to help you solve your problems are the same metrics that are going to be useful for you or me to solve that. So there's no sort of magic bullet here, I don't think.
Yeah, my second thing is we give demo on the AWS specific, right? Maybe you have used some event-driven Lambda, and it is going to trigger something, transformation thing. Let's say in typical enterprise architectures is a hybrid, right? You have on-prem, you have multi-cloud architectures. In such case, using GenAI as a DevOps guy, because I use generally, I have so far used Prometheus Grafana you mentioned, and legacy I've done mixed dynamic trace for JVM metrics, and we are using Splunk for log stashing and everything, but there's no one single tool solve, but you have to use all collective tools to make a dashboard for entire organization, right?
Yep.
In such case, if I have application running on multi-cloud architecture, will GenAI can I use this way still?
For sure, yeah. So like this is a particular, this is an event-driven sort of example, but it doesn't have to be event-driven. You could have something going, running in a cron across your logs and collecting data and collecting things from all the various systems, maybe looking to try and piece together where maybe some hidden errors are happening, right? So that aren't necessarily obvious. You can do event-driven. You can do a mix of both. This is AWS showing that, but you could easily imagine using Kubernetes events or something like that from a Kubernetes system, or any, if that's on-prem in the cloud. Log filters, there's lots of all of your on-prem logging, you can still filter and generate events off of these sort of things. So I think you can extend this sort of concept pretty much anywhere. And the key point of the concept is collecting meaningful information. So whether that's the error, information about the environment, could be what size of Lambda was there? What's the memory? Did it run out of memory? Did it time out? You can collect other information about the environment in the runtime, and then you can use that with generative AI to synthesize and hypothesize a potential issue, solution, find what's important, and then send that directly to the developer. So yeah, that's the general concept of the monitor.
So I'm into that also. Will deserve a lot of questions. Maybe one last question, if you permit me.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, did we do any use case like that for any enterprise customers like this? If so, what tools we have used and what tech stack they have in?
Yeah, so no, this is kind of fresh experiment for me. I kind of sort of thought about this probably 3 or 4 days ago. So,
that's awesome. Maybe we'll connect GitHub. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so just before I pass it off to Julian, let's go check in on our pull request because it's kind of.
It was done as you started doing questions.
Okay, then instead let's just get a high five because I want one. All right. Yeah.
Hello?
We put the speaker notes on. So.
It's impossible to use the screen when you're not facing the screen. It's super difficult.
Give me a hard time.
Hi everyone, I'm here to present to you about enterprise scale AWS and managing accounts at scale. So I am Julian, I work at Autimo. I'm a Public Cloud Solutions Director. Interestingly, I used to work at BC Gov, and we grew the cloud there from 3 little workloads to several hundred. So that's actually how I met Autimo. I engaged them to come help me with that. We'll talk a little bit about that. And that's how I met Warren and Kevin and Grayson and Tony and Bill. And so today we'll talk a little bit about the history of what we did and some patterns that might be of interest to you in your work. At the end of this presentation, we will have covered how to productize your platform. I believe you asked a question earlier about, could you repeat the question that you asked?
Yeah, so my question was for infrastructure automation with Terraform.
Yeah.
In a long run, if the configuration drift happens.
Yep. So we'll cover that a little bit about the kind of the concept of productizing your platform. How do you prevent the drift from either manual changes happening or from just Terraform drifting away from the actual configuration? And then kind of explain, it's supposed to be a 2, explain, secondly, the value clearly so that you can properly fund these kind of initiatives. Because as technical developers, a lot of us have these maybe ideas about how to manage a platform, how to manage an environment, and we want to make sure that we communicate that well so that it gets the proper support and proper attention to do properly. So I'm gonna be asking you a lot of questions. So, what is a platform? And what characteristics would you say it has?
For any system, it is underlying architecture. As a performance guy, I define that way. IP86, sometimes Spark, Sunstore, whatever Solo is Spark systems.
Yeah.
This is called a platform in general. In the infrastructure side, maybe it's something you call it runtime, also a platform.
Yeah, so
Master.
So Google maybe itself could be a platform.
Platform, yeah,
AWS.
AWS. Yeah, managed service platform.
Yeah. And you were kind of talking about the operating systems.
Which is underlying architecture.
Yeah.
It's called actually a platform in computer science definition.
Yes. Anyone else? Any characteristics? When you think of a platform?
It's a collection of shared services.
Yeah. Very good. So they're kind of units that are reusable, dependable. The location to host the software and hardware. Yeah.
Yeah, same collection of services like the help you to develop.
Okay. Excellent. So similar units, collection of hardware, software, transactions, things are repeatable. You have network effects. You can scale up. You have an ecosystem mindset when you're dealing with these services and softwares that live there. You can conduct governance over them, right? If they're ad hoc, built at random in various different places, how do you know what you have? How do you know that it's secure? You can measure your risk. You can have a community of users that all have a common language and a common ideation of what is there. That also lends to learning. This is interesting. You were talking about staffing in these large organizations doing DevOps. What is the ratio of your administrators to users? Right? Maybe you can, by having a good performing platform, you can increase that leverage, increase the ratio of decrease the amount of administrators that it takes to serve users. It accelerates your users, and it's a place where development happens at economies of scale. And it can also pull in new technologies that maybe weren't available without that platform. If it's implemented poorly, though, it can be extremely costly. How many people have seen a platform implemented poorly? See some hands. Yeah. And did it meet any of these characteristics? Were there other characteristics that anyone would like to share?
Yeah, the lack of governance, right? You created some resources and you forget about it, and then there's the invoice next month.
Yeah.
And that reminded you that you created something which you're going to do.
And then you have turnover,
Yeah.
and the new people don't want to touch the old stuff because they don't want to be responsible for getting rid of it. Right? I saw a hand go up. Nope. Okay. So I like to ask a lot of questions. So I'm going to ask you some questions about your work environments. So just at a high level, I'll be talking about AWS. But if you work in Google, Azure, on-prem, just consider these questions for you as well. So let's get a show of hands. How many of you are responsible for managing cloud or containerized environments? Okay. How many of you manage more than 10 AWS accounts under one root account? Ish?
Azure equivalent.
Yeah, Azure equivalent. Does anyone know why I chose 10 as the first question?
Soft limit. AWS is soft limit.
That's right. That's the out-of-the-box limit. Ask for help to get more than that. How many of you manage more than 100 AWS accounts or Azure accounts?
Not at one client.
Not at one client? Several clients. Keep them straight. One big platform. 500? Anyone? Or stick your hand up.
I'm getting close, but not quite there.
More? Okay. We found our limit. We all learned something about each other. So in BC Gov, in 2014, we started off with the Dev Exchange. This is the symbol for the Dev Exchange, which is running on their containerized platform in their Kamloops data center, KDC. And at the end, I have a shout out. I fondly remember a visit that we had from Lily came over and spoke to us. Remember that? Yeah. That was. I still remember it. It was really inspiring. And you came all the way over and spoke at our DevOps meetup as well as the Dev Exchange. We don't have that off. We didn't. I say we. I work for Autimo now, but they don't have that office anymore. But some good memories there. Thank you for coming over and inspiring us that day. That's kind of was our initial foray into cloud native development styles. And then we took those concepts that we kind of learned there and took them out into the cloud. And we went out with 3 different clouds. So I'll be talking mostly about AWS today, but we were also in Azure. And what we found, font error here, this is supposed to be wingdings. Those are supposed to be X's and checkboxes. AI was difficult to hand roll in the data center. Same with all kinds of modern services. You just can't keep up with the volume of services that are coming out in the clouds. And storage and compute as well. It's eventually in the data center you do hit limits a lot sooner than you do out in the cloud. Every journey, how many of you have seen this diagram before? Everyone? I won't spend a lot of time on it. You get that early adopter enthusiasm, and then how do you scale it? This is a part of the story where we met Autimo in 2020, brought them in, and from there, our performance really took off. We were, the amount of workloads that we were hosting in our cloud environments went up quite a lot. It's still going up. So on the journey to cloud, we didn't want to deal with one-offs scattered, managed by different people throughout. So we wanted unified billing. We wanted a single compliant contract with the cloud provider. We wanted a single pane of glass to be able to look at everything and see what our footprint was in the cloud, see what was going on. We wanted it secure by design, and we didn't have the capacity of people. Government has, just like every other org, has a challenge in hiring people that are, there's not enough cloud people around, right? So we couldn't have each application development team. When I say application development team, I'm talking about government ministries that are building moose tracking app, right? And some other ministry is building a children of family child development home inspections app or something like that.
So the moose tracking app is the most Canadian app I've ever
Right? And so these are individual teams, those kind of small missions that are very app focused, and they don't want to have to go renegotiate the contracts with each different cloud provider. They don't want to have to go and figure out how to properly architect the underlying infrastructure. So we wanted to kind of pull that out to a common approach. We wanted to give all our users a running start, and we wanted a common platform for the community to anchor around high standards of incident response, high uptime. This is what we chose at the time. Remember, this is 2019. Government of Canada and AWS got together and they made a secure environment accelerator, they call it, the ASEA, or SEA as I call it for short. And this is not for the faint of heart. It is very expensive because it deploys a lot of stuff. Originally, when we first ran it, it took 2 days to run the deployment scripts, and it cost several $1,000s a month to run. And you'll see why in a sec when I start to get into the diagrams. But we really felt it's worth the value, and you'll also see why. So this is meant to just be, this is what we were originally faced with. This is the original diagram. It's very complex. I'm going to show you a much simpler version. Upper left, we have a platform operation team, platform infrastructure accounts. So those are common accounts that the teams can't access, where security logs and kind of utilities live. You have your developer teams down there in my drawing, and the application workloads accounts. I'm going to skip through this fairly quickly. The operations team, you can see there, they're running those scripts we were talking about that deploy the landing zone. That's kind of at a high level what it looks like. The yellow bars, those are guardrails. So that's cloud automation that's immutable. The teams can't change that. Clients can't change that. It's common to all the environments, which we'll see in a sec, as well as the security audit account where it's kind of a write-only account where all the logs get sucked up and centralized there. For the platform management, the teams also can access their own logs individually. So there you see we have an example of 3 teams. They're provisioned with their own infrastructure deployment code and their own little app products. And they can just run that over and over again and redeploy. And they end up with 4 environments. We call them tools. So it's called CI/CD, but we call that tools. Tools, dev, test, prod. That's where tools is where you throw your image registry or something common with that if you're using ECS, which is an Elastic Container Service. Important to note, who here, look at the audience, who here knows the term cattle, not pets? Right, talking to the DevOps crowd. Right, so we don't name so that there's no moose tracking title on the app. It's a randomly generated character. Everything's just shoved in metadata and stored in a data store. What does this give us though? It lets us apply policies at a high level, so we can, if there's a problem, say there's a vulnerability in the configuration of the dev environments, all of them are commonly held in that same VPC. And there's supposed to be crossbars through there. Anyways, imagine that that's all crossed out. We can turn it off at a high level and then go and fix that. We can also start applying metrics and analytics, and especially at a security log level. Right? So here we have the first team. Their little security dashboard is only scoped to their unit of cloud. So we call that a project set with a license plate. So the E3N45P, that's theirs. That's where their app lives. One of the rules that we made for ourselves is if they ask for a second app, we give them a second environment. We don't allow. We found that a lot of reorgs through the big organizations, eventually teams split up, teams hand things over to other groups. So the app sometimes gets separated from the team. So that's why we don't allow multiple apps within the same environments. Just quickly roll off a new app, a new project set for them. So if something blows up in, say, the production environment, they can see it, but also the security folks can see it. All the security automation can trigger, and everyone can come in and help them. Shared responsibility. This is kind of more just like a cloud provider way of thinking that we expanded on a little bit. when we onboarded teams, we would make sure that we explained to them clearly what they were responsible for as app developers, as well as what the cloud platform team would do for them. And so everyone had different roles in terms of handling contracts and billing, governance and compliance, and the technology stack. And we're obviously going to focus today on the platform stuff. So this is one of the key roles that the platform team would handle. Because we're treating our cloud environment as a product, we're ingesting an upstream GitHub repo made by AWS, or other cloud providers do this as well, the Government of Canada. And so we didn't have to worry about whether our configuration was out of date in terms of security stance, or unaware of new features that had come out, or just general platform updates. We took care of that at a lower level, and the ministry teams that were our clients could just focus on building their apps in a stable, secure environment that was being kept up to date. Now, what's the problem with this? Okay, so what happens if your update from upstream comes in and blows up your production environment? So you need to have at least 3 of these high-level platform environments, which triples your cost, right? But you can't be testing your upstream patches on your production environment, right? You need to be testing them in a test environment. ECF was just there's a funny story behind that. Landing zone has different meanings on different cloud providers. It's a very overused term. So we just kind of coined our own little high-level term, enterprise cloud factory, where things get built. It's kind of cute. And so we called everything at the high level ECF. What about Control Tower? Who here has worked with Control Tower? A few hands up, okay. Control Tower didn't exist at the time we chose this approach, and it didn't provide the scaling that we foresaw. We foresaw thousands of accounts being used in this platform environment, and we were concerned at the time that it wouldn't scale. There is a new product out now called the Landing Zone Accelerator that replaces the SCA. So if you're considering doing this in your organization, highly recommend you focus on LZA. Why? Because it's a globally supported product. They really liked what was happening in Canada, and they took that idea and expanded it and just pulled out some stuff and replaced it with Control Tower. But what happens if your product goes away? Well, you had your 3 environments, you need 3 more, go and try with the new product and then migrate everything over, right? So if you're doing this kind of planning, you're putting forward a plan, a proposal to do this, you need to be aware and plan for that eventuality. Here's an example of the message that is saying the SCA is now kind of going end of life. What about managing users? Let's say you have thousands of users, developers that are using your environments. What do you do when they're offboarding? How would you do it? Well, some organizations just have a manual process. They have something as simple as no one does this anymore, but you could have a 6-month reminder on your calendar with your security review committee, and you could go through and just review, make sure that everyone has access that should have access, and everyone who's onboarded hasn't slipped through. Sure, that'll pass your typical COVID audit, but that's not, everyone does it through automation now. Still a lot of work. I'm not going to answer that question